Hi, I'm Addie.
And I'm Jamie.
And welcome to episode 2 of Over a Cup of Coffee,
the podcast where we talk about everything community, everything under the sun, all over a cup of coffee.
Today, we welcome Hamilton, the owner of Juniper Coffee and Eatery. He's our first special guest of this new podcast.
So welcome, and we are glad you're here. Hey, and welcome. This is Jamie Church, and welcome to our second episode of Over a Cup of Coffee. We are so excited. I mean, we have our first special guest today, who I'm going to introduce in just a second, but I'm just so excited because so much has happened since our first episode.
Yeah.
So just to refresh your memory, I'm Jamie Church. I am the CEO of the Farmington Chamber of Commerce, and my partner in this is...
I'm Addie Betancourt. I'm the Director of Sales and Business Relations for the Home 2 Suites by Hilton. And who would have even thought that we would have had the kind of reactions, the kind of viewership, listenership, whatever you want to call it, for that first episode. It was, a month ago?
Yep, just about a month ago. So, again, our podcast is called Over a Cup of Coffee because we talk over a cup of coffee, and our podcast is about half an hour, which is just about the amount of time it takes to drink a cup of coffee. And we came up with this idea, over a cup of coffee,
yes,
because we get together often and talk about things, and thought, we've got so many things that we talk about, so many things about community. But what has really happened is that we've realized there's so many great things about our community, but then community on a larger level too. Wherever you are, you can make your community a better place. And so, I don't know.
Yes,
it's just been so exciting.
It has. Yeah. It really has. And so much more than I expected it to be. So this is just super cool coming into the second episode and having our first guest.
Yes.
So we should go right into him because I want to hear everything he has to say.
So our special guest today is Hamilton Cadman, right? That's how you say your last name.
Correct.
And you are the owner of Juniper Coffee.
Yes.
And I first met Hamilton when as a chamber director, I'm always going around and talking to small businesses and saying, you need to join the chamber. So I went in and met Hamilton, and immediately, because my real name is Jameson, Jamie's just a nickname. And I was like, your name is Hamilton and my name is Jameson. And it was kind of like rhyme. And I think he was like, you're really a weird lady, but can I get you a cup of coffee? I was just like, Hamilton, my name is Jameson. But anyway, so Hamilton, we did ask you to be our first guest.
Awesome.
Partly because you own a coffee shop, and our show is kind of coffee themed. And so tell us about the name, first of all. Why Juniper? Why is it called Juniper Coffee?
Okay. First of all, I would have to say that we had kind of some time, my wife and I, trying to choose and trying to figure out a name for what we wanted the place to be. And since the company is native owned and operated, we wanted to have that component in the name. Something, whether it was a design or we just felt that it needed to have that kind of element, But something that wasn't too strong and overpowering, I guess you would say, something subtle, something elegant. So my wife is really the one that came up with that name. And we chose Juniper for two reasons. The first one being that just the landscape, or I guess the area where the coffee shop's located, kind of in that area, there's a lot of juniper trees. And there happens to be just a couple right outside of our door, right by the patio. So that was really nice. That accommodated it. And then the second reason would be on our menu, we have a item that is blue corn. We have blue corn crepes as well. But the blue corn, to get it blue and to make it the way that it is, juniper ash is needed.
Oh, okay.
So it's the juniper ash that makes the corn blue. So, because if you just cooked it by itself, the blue corn, it would actually be like a purple color. But once you add that ash, there's like, I guess, like a chemical reaction that takes place, and that's what makes it blue. So the more you add, the more blue you'll get.
That's really
See?
cool. And I've
Well,
lived here my
you know that.
whole life and never knew that about blue
Yeah.
corn. And how cool is that?
know.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you with the name Juniper if it did come from the trees, because those
Yeah.
are, those are local to our area of the country. And for anybody that's listening that doesn't really know where we're located in an area that's called the Four Corners, which is where New Mexico, Colorado, Utah, and Arizona meet to form a corner where all 4 states touch. And we have a very unique landscape here. We're surrounded by desert. Also, we have mountains, we have lakes, we have rivers. So it's extremely unique in that.
Yes.
But I just had to throw that in just because
Definitely.
I love the area.
That's right. And we have to remember too that people are listening from all over, and
Right.
so we are in that high desert climate. But I didn't know that either about blue corn. But it does bring me. You have a very interesting menu.
Yes.
And we'll get to that in just
Sure.
a second. But kind of give us your background. Why did you want to open a business, and why something related to food?
Okay. I'll try to be as thorough and as because there's a lot that comes to it, but I'll go ahead. So my wife and I've been living in the Farmington area. I'm not originally from Farmington. We relocated from the Valley, Phoenix, came up here. However, we do have family here in the surrounding areas. We originally started with catering. So that's kind of how we got into the industry, the food service industry. And we've been catering for, all the way up until Juniper. I'd say a good solid 10 years. We've been catering in the area. A lot of business-to-business catering, definitely with like the natural resource companies, the power plants, all of that, some of the schools around the area. So it was a lot of business-to-business catering that carried us, not so much like private
parties
yeah,
and
private
things like that,
parties
yeah.
and things like that. So that's really how we kind of got our foot in the door in the industry, and we just kept going. And over the years, we built our clientele. Just the company grew. The company was under a different name than Juniper. So we went that far, and the location where we're currently at by the college, it opened up. I guess the last company that was there left, and we seen a for rent sign. We've always been eyeing that place, and we just one day, like, should we do it? So we contacted the landlord and started speaking with them, and they gave us, the information and all that. And we there was a moment there where we were like, should we do this?
There's always that moment. Like, I don't know. Is this a good idea?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I guess in business, there are those moments that you do come across, maybe more than once, to where you kind of just take that leap.
Right.
And you hope for the best. All your planning, everything, you hope that it works out the way that it did. So we had our first big moment like that, I'd say, and being small business owners. And we went for it. And then we just started leasing it out. At the time, though, we solely just used that location for the kitchen because it kind of was already set up that way, had some equipment in there. So we're like, okay, we'll just do our catering company out of this. And we started that way. And the front of the house, the way it is now, it wasn't like that. It was kind of just leftover tables and chairs. There were some counters there. It was just however they left it from the last company, that's how it was. And at the time, we didn't really have any intentions like set in stone, like this is what we're going to do with this place. It was more or less just to use the kitchen, run our operation out of there. And there was a time too where, because there's so many windows, we're like, geez, I wonder if these people, because people would walk by,
Right.
people
We
were
wonder what
curious,
you were
like, what's
doing.
going on? You know what I mean? Because there's a new company there. And so we kind of like maybe shied away from that a little bit. So we got some brown paper and we just covered up the windows.
Oh, okay.
Just so, like
Right,
people
yeah,
wouldn't
no, I
try to be opening the doors and like, what are you guys doing, So we did that for a while. And then through that, we were like, hey, let's try to do something with this, with the front of the house. I don't know. At the time when we first started to think like that, it was real small. It was real small, nothing on the scale of what it is today. And so I don't know. We were thinking simple, maybe sell some food, some breakfast items, and then coffee was kind of thrown in there, some beverages, whatever, just to try to maybe generate some revenue off of that, make use of that space. Why not? It's just there. So with that, before that, there was an old espresso machine there. I guess from the last company.
Wow. Okay.
And I knew nothing about how to operate it, let alone even how it worked. So we started inquiring about it, like, hey, there's a coffee right here. Maybe we can start getting into coffee, do something with coffee. Okay. So that's kind of really initially how the coffee component added to Juniper. Because at the time it was just going to be Juniper. We weren't decided, like, is it going to be Juniper like food, Juniper bistro, Juniper. So we're for sure Juniper we were set on, but just didn't know what to add after that. And then so with, I guess, that espresso machine, the coffee component came along and totally just learning from the ground up.
And so it evolved
yes.
from the catering and then into the small business. But I think that's a really great message for anybody looking to start a small business, because you might have one idea in mind, but it does evolve over time as you kind of learn. And you had people stopping by, like you said, trying the door, which must have made you think, well, gosh, if we were
people want in.
open, we should we should have something to sell.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely.
So what timeline? When did you guys open Juniper? And from the point that you took over the spot for the catering portion, what's the dates on that? When did this all become?
Juniper started in the month of September 2018. Okay. That's when we opened our doors to the public. But I'd say we started leasing that place earlier of that year.
Okay.
So I'd say, February 2018 is when we started leasing out that place. So from then all the way till September, that's kind of how long, I don't know.
That was quick.
Yeah.
That's actually super quick. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. How cool though.
And then what's kind of like with COVID? Can you talk a little bit? Well, wait, I jumped ahead. So let me get back to the menu, because I was going to talk about the menu.
Sure.
So the menu, you have some interesting items on your menu. You mentioned the blue corn.
Yeah.
And you have the blue corn crepes and the blue corn bowl, which I really love the blue corn bowl for breakfast.
I need to come try the crepes. Crepes are my favorite.
And then you have Spam as an option.
Yeah.
So talk about that, because not a lot of places. I did a little research on Spam.
Okay.
But talk about why Spam as an option to go into burritos and breakfast bowls and things.
Wait, can I say something before you say that?
Go right ahead.
Because it's delicious.
But other than that.
We grew up with Spam and,
Yes,
and all different directions of Spam. And then when I went to Hawaii, I was like, oh my God, it's the Spam capital.
It is. It actually is.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay,
definitely.
so now I'll let you get going.
Okay. So it's kind of funny, and I do tell some of our customers this when they come in. Some of them are surprised. Maybe some chuckle a little bit when they see Spam up there. They're like, what the heck, And they have a laugh. But it's kind of, I guess, came about in a joke a little bit. Just the Native community, Spam and other, communities. I guess Spam is kind of just something, like how you said, it's good. And some people grew up on it. Definitely with the Native community, Spam is a favorite, it's really enjoyed various ways. And in our case, in a burrito, we're not the only ones who do it like that. So we're like, why not? We're Native owned, Native operated, like, let's throw that component into there. It may not necessarily be a Native thing, but like, I don't know.
It is popular here with that community.
It is. So we're like, why not? Let's just see what happens. And we had no idea. But Spam today for our breakfast burritos is our top seller.
Is it? I'm not surprised at all.
We go through a lot
That's
of Spam.
great. Yeah, we had a houseman that used to work for us, and his grandmother made Spam breakfast burritos and sold them. And when we found out, so $3 a burrito, we would buy for the entire team, and especially the ones that had never had Spam before, because our general manager and I, we both grew up. Our grandmothers cooked it for us, and so she was like, oh my gosh. And it's got corn in it, and it's got potatoes in it, and the tortillas are homemade. It was like reliving our childhood.
Definitely. So that's
cool.
That's how the Spam came about.
Okay, because I figured, again, it's not an ingredient you see on a lot of menus, but I don't know why not. So I did a little history on Spam, and it became very popular in World War II, and it's as a company or as a product, it's had its highs and then its lows. Where
Right.
everybody, when they came
They
home
boycotted
from
it.
World War II, a lot of the GIs were like they never wanted another bite of Spam, so it
Yeah.
kind of went through a low, and now it's coming back up in gourmet restaurants
Right.
and restaurants like yours as an ingredient. And so I just thought that was really interesting and wanted to ask
Definitely.
you about the Spam.
Yeah.
Thanks.
That's how it came about.
And talk a little bit too. Well, do you have a question? Because I know I'm kind of going on and on. But
I know. Well, I know, and I have my notes here because I didn't want to miss anything. But you touched on being Native owned, and what would you recommend for other Native American people in our area, because there's so many neat ideas that are going around, and what would you recommend for people who are thinking about maybe pulling that trigger and starting their own business, becoming an entrepreneur? We have so many artists and t-shirt makers. I know there's people that are creating designs for t-shirts, and they're all still doing them out of their homes and the grandma's back room, and
Yeah.
how do we get them out of there? How do we bring them into town and entice them to open their business and jump?
Make that leap. Yeah. I do get that question asked, or I do get that asked, by other people, and like not necessarily maybe a small business owner coming saying, how can I? It's more like other people who maybe have a concern or are interested, like this question right here. They might, want to know what I would think or what we would think. And I would just tell them, I guess, maybe not necessarily just for the Native community, but like anybody who wants to start a small business. That for me, I think that a lot of what we do and a lot of what I do and why I do it is just having that passion for what you want to do. And I feel, for me anyway, that's like my foundation for what I do. That's my stronghold for what I do, because it's not easy. By no means is it easy. Every day, it seems like every day, there's always an obstacle, right? There's always an obstacle. There's always something to overcome. There's always something you're trying to overcome or trying to make sense of or trying to do or trying to figure out. It's like this puzzle that's just ongoing. But I feel that when it does get hard, it's your passion that pulls you through.
Right.
And I would encourage people that do have a passion for something, that maybe do feel really strong about something, to just do it, And I tell like the young people, like if I can do it, you can do it.
Right.
I'm not downplaying myself or anything, but like I'm just a normal person. I don't have an IQ of this or that, or I don't have like these
10
credibilities or 10 degrees or something, But I honestly feel that if you do feel really strong about something, then pursue it. Why not? We only live once, And the worst thing that one of my fears, and one of something that can like helps me and encourages me to keep doing what I'm doing, is that I don't want any regrets.
Yeah.
I don't want to have an idea to where that something I felt good about, something that I wanted to do, and I don't do it, but then I see somebody else doing it.
Right.
And I'm like, man, that's exactly what I was wanting to do, trying to do, but I didn't because I was
fear overcame
I was
you.
fair,
Yeah.
definitely. And there are a lot of resources out there. I think if you just take the time, just like if you're trying to get into a good college, if you put the time in, there's money out there. You just got to look for it. Maybe you just got to do a little extra hard work. But there are resources out there. There are organizations out there that are trying to promote, that are trying, like the Chamber of Commerce, people like this that you can go to that can, if not help you, at least point you in the direction
directions.
to like, there's something there, go check it out. And you might have to put in some extra work, but if you want it that bad, I feel that you're going to take the time.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah,
going to find a
exactly.
way. You're going to
Yeah.
figure it out. And that's my advice to people that are maybe wanting to do something, that, have a thought, that just follow your passion. It may sound really vague. It may sound kind of cheesy. They talk about your dreams. You just got to do it. But if you have a passion, I feel, for what you want to do, then you're going to do it. You're going to find a way,
Yeah.
you know, like how you guys are sitting here.
I know, right?
Like,
Exactly.
you know, like you just got to.
We jumped. No fear.
No fear. But that is such great advice because I think we've all been in that situation where we wanted to do something, we didn't do it, and then later we went, "Oh, I
Yep.
should have done that."
Yeah.
And that's, you know, you said you don't want regrets.
Yeah.
And so 2020, which I cannot wait until we do this podcast and we don't even mention the word COVID. But
Right.
we are still in a recovery process and getting out of it. And I have to ask, COVID, what did 2020 look like for you as far as the business?
It was weird, I guess you would say. Totally like walking in or experiencing something that you never experienced before. You know, there was really no guidelines. There was kind of everybody was in the same place. You know, we're
Right.
all trying to figure out what to do and how to go about things. And for us, I think that it wasn't really the best of time. Just like with anybody, there was a whole month that we did have to shut down completely. I think it was the month of May. We shut down completely because there was just nothing.
Right.
Everything shut down. People weren't wanting to come out, and it was really hard. I can say it was really hard. Beginning of the year, January, actually, you know, like I'd say the following year of December and into January, it was really picking up. You know, people were coming around. It was, you know, it was doing good. And we're like, wow, February's all right. And then come April, March, it just, and then May, it just got so ridiculously slow. We just like, let's just shut down. This is kind of like pointless right now. So that's kind of how it was for us. June, things started to slowly open back up. And, you know, we just started to jump on board with what everybody else is doing. Deliveries, curbside, trying to be intuitive. Did a couple collaborations with some other businesses that we
awesome.
really fortunate of that actually maybe kind of came to us and offered a hand. Like, hey, you know, let's try to do something. Let's figure this out, you know, because they were kind of in the same boat too. And it seems like just through research and just reading what all in particular other like restaurants are doing
Right.
around the country, you know, everybody was just trying to be intuitive. Everybody was just trying to think outside the box.
Right.
How can we continue to do business with the way things are, you know?
Right. Yeah. How
So-
do you find that pivot point? Right.
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. So that's kind of how it looked for us, I guess. You know, just trying to be definitely intuitive. You had to, you know, think outside the box, step out of your comfort zone,
Right.
and try to just do something. Find a way to get to your customers. Trying to find a way to, I guess, I don't know, engage with them somehow to where that you let them know that you're still here.
Right.
Because people still got to eat, right?
Right.
So just trying to find a way to overcome that barrier. And definitely we did learn a lot, I think. It showed us a lot. And, you know, at times we're like, are we going to make it maybe, you know?
Right.
But June came, things slowly started picking back up, July, and then it just slowly
climbed.
started gradually going back up, and here we are today. But that's, I'd say it was definitely an experience, not one that I want to go through. You know?
None of us want to go through
Yeah.
again.
But
Yeah.
for the most part, it was trying, it was challenging, and maybe at times scary, you know.
Oh, yeah,
but for the
definitely.
most part, you know, we feel good today. You know, we feel confident that we're still here, and, you know, people, you know, actually acknowledge that. Customers, you know, like, wow, you guys made it. We're here rooting for you, you know. So that is definitely, I don't know, it makes me feel good.
Oh yeah. No, you should be
Yeah,
proud.
and I think that's like
Yeah.
when we talk about our community here, we did a big push about shopping local, supporting local, eat local, support local. That was our message of 2020.
Right.
But that is that message you can take beyond our community here, beyond Farmington, to any where you live
Wherever
in your
you are.
community, is support your local community and your local restaurants and your independent coffee shops and your independent booksellers and all of those, because that's what makes your community. That's what
Right.
adds to the quality of life. And like you said, none of us had ever experienced anything like 2020 before, and there were no guidelines. We were just all
We're
kind
kind
of
of just thrown into a fishbowl to figure
and-
things out.
Right,
Yeah.
and every month it seemed like a new set of obstacles or a new, but you did really well with transitioning and pivoting and adjusting, and here you are, your doors are still open.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and that's with small businesses. That's a real accomplishment.
It is. It's
especially
huge.
coming out
It's
of
huge.
COVID. So
Yeah.
well done.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank
absolutely
you.
well
Awesome.
done. Yeah, I like how you did point out that you had some partnerships with other businesses, and that's something that's been very vital for what I do because
Yes.
the hotel industry, we're all part of the hospitality industry with what we do. It was vital that I had my community partnerships. It was vital that I had all of those relationships that I've built over the years to find that pivot point when things crashed and burned so that we could still keep the lights on and keep people employed and
Exactly.
and not close those doors.
Definitely.
So we
Yes.
are almost at our time. I know.
Oh my
It goes
gosh, that went so fast.
I know, and we have so much to say. So one of the things we're doing, which I'm really excited about because I'm a big reader, but we have asked, and we're going to continue to ask you to submit to us through comments, or you can message us on the Facebook page with book suggestions. And every podcast episode, we are each going to review a book and mention the person who suggested it, and then we have a gift card that we're going to send to you. So, my book can I go first?
Oh, yes, please do.
So my book is called Kitchen Front, and it is by Jennifer Ryan, and it was suggested and recommended by Sherry Mezeray. I'm sure I'm going to get your name wrong. So it's either Cherry or Sherry, Mezeray or Missouri. So I'm sorry. You can let me know how to say it.
the
But
pronunciation is.
this was a great book because it is about a group of women in England during World War II who they enter a cooking contest all about using rations. And it's interesting because I end up reading a lot of books about World War II.
You do.
I don't know
So I was
why,
gonna say,
but
that
it's
was right
just-
up your alley.
I know. So I read a lot of heavy books about World War
Yeah.
II. So this was much lighter, but kind of that idea of when you have limited resources, how to make the best of it. And I felt like I'm in no way comparing 2020 to World War II, don't get me wrong. But we were all adjusting to
Yeah,
a lot of different
a
things.
lot of unknowns.
And so it's a fun book. It's light. And they give the recipes. So that's I always like books where you get the recipes and you can try to make. Although one of the recipes involves a sheep's head. And I don't know where I could get a sheep's head.
I know a few people.
You do? Okay. Well, I don't know. That one scares me a little bit.
I do know some local butchers.
Again, it's all about so they cooked using the ration cards. And they made these recipes and it was a contest. And you think about that. We forget, because 2020 was hard, but you forget about some of what other people have lived through in their lifetimes. And, just trying to make the best of a situation, and even as traumatic and devastating as it can be. So anyway, it was a very good book, but a light read, and I needed that because the book I'd read before this was pretty heavy. So thank you very much for recommending it, and I'm going to now send it on to my mother-in-law because I think she'll
love
enjoy it.
Yeah.
She's from England, and I told her I would, as soon as we were done with this filming of this podcast, I would send it to her. So again, it's by Jennifer Ryan, and it is called The Kitchen Front. And so now, Addie, which one did you choose?
So I chose Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey. It became kind of my savior of words for 2020. I listened to it. I downloaded and listened to the audio version. It was actually my first audiobook. I prefer book in my hand, reading it, or even downloading it on my phone and reading it that way. But I escaped at Christmas and went to California to visit one of my lifelong best friends and spend Christmas morning with her. Her father had just passed away, and he requested something special at the beach for us to do. So I downloaded a couple of books that I thought, you know what, I need some soul cleansing for this trip. And so, excellent. Green Lights is absolutely excellent. When you said about jumping, so one of my quotes that I love from that book, he says, "We cannot fully appreciate the light without the shadows. We have to be thrown off balance to find our footing. It's better to jump than fall, and here I am."
Oh, that's awesome.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
I've got goosebumps.
So who recommended it?
So Mitch Dye recommended it.
Okay.
And a few other people recommended it, but I've just it's just amazing, and you have to hear it in his voice. He's got such a great stage presence anyway, but it's read by him. There's a lot of things that he shouts out as he's reading it. So if you're sensitive to that kind of thing, it might become annoying, but I loved it. And it gave me, I made it from Farmington to Barstow and finished it in Barstow. And I still had 2 more hours in my drive, and I was so disappointed that it was over.
I've heard good things about it. So
Yeah, it's excellent.
So we have quite a few suggestions that came in, but keep sending them in because
Yes,
we're going to.
please.
So we get 2 weeks to choose and read and review, and that's one of the things we really want to bring into this is we both love to read.
Yeah.
And we mentioned this before. I'm much more of a fiction, and you're more nonfiction biographies,
Right.
those kind of
Memoirs.
books. Memoirs.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So I'm going to try to expand my horizons a little bit. Try to get out of World War II because I feel like I've been stuck in World War II for like the last 5 novels I've read. But it is certainly a pivotal time in American history. So but thank you so much, Hamilton. You are our first guest.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So when this goes into the archives of podcasts,
You
like
get to
Hall of
hold
Fame,
the torch that says I was first.
you
Wow.
were first.
Yeah.
But we just appreciate you. We appreciate you having a small business. We appreciate you staying open.
Yeah.
The people you employ. Anything you want to
Do you
finish
include
off with?
your address or
Oh,
Yeah, where you're located. Yeah, that's a good point.
For sure.
Yeah, because I might have people staying at the hotel that I
Okay.
would love to send your way.
Definitely. We're located at 5150 College Boulevard, Suite 206. And if you're familiar with the Farmington area and the San Juan College Small Business Development Center, literally right across the street. Right across the street from Jamie's office.
That's right, from Jamie's office.
Yes.
I center everything around me.
Come
So,
over, go ahead.
and you have a patio too, right? You
ma'am.
have outdoor dining?
Yes,
Okay,
yes. So,
available?
closed right now, currently our hours of operation. Sunday and Monday we are closed. Tuesday through Saturday we are open 8 to 2 p.m. right now.
Oh, those are great hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are like my dream hours.
Yes, I know. I know. And you guys make some really interesting iced teas too, kind of
Yeah,
craft iced tea. I got a
definitely.
bully one day.
Sure.
That was really good. So
really?
they have the craft tea as well. So very interesting menu. It's not a humongous menu, but that's kind of why I like
But
it.
I think it makes you a niche, you know?
Yeah. And so great to have you. Thank you
Awesome.
so
Yeah,
much.
thank you.
Yep,
And
Jamie, Addie.
we've really enjoyed this.
Yeah,
So
I know.
thanks for tuning in to episode 2.
Yes.
I
Can you
know.
believe it?
But we have a lot of exciting things planned. We have a lot of great guests, a lot of great topics.
Yes.
And so you
And summertime coming up, there's
yes,
a
I'm-
lot of developments happening. So hopefully our next guest will be able to share all of that with us so that if you're planning a summer trip or looking for things for the family to do, we've got a lot of exciting things here.
Right. And on the Facebook page, we are going to keep posting events that are happening in the community that we think are of interest, positive events, things that are going on. So it is a good page just to be tuning into so that you know, I posted information about the spring fling that happened at Wines of the San Juan, which I saw you
Yes,
at, and that
I
was
know.
super fun.
It was awesome.
And so we are sharing things that are happening as the community opens up and as events are happening.
Yeah.
So stay tuned. And we really appreciate everybody who's listening and watching. And this podcast is about to go national. So
Yes.
that is a great
We
thing.
are super excited
We
about
are.
that.
So, all right. Thanks. We'll see you next time.